Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're coming to us from today. My name is Brad Nitch, and I'm a Customer Success Manager here at Kronos and a former customer who has been on the Workforce Ready product for quite some time and actually done several different implementations on the product. I'd like to spend a little bit of time with you today talking about our new user interface, show you some things in a presentation so you can see the difference between the classic and the new user interface, the classic being what you're used to, and obviously where that now falls within the new user interface. But then I'd also like to jump into the system a couple times throughout the presentation just to show you actually within the system where to be able to find stuff, how it looks, how it acts, how it behaves, so that you can navigate comfortably within the new user interface. Couple housekeeping items before we get started. There is question and answer available. Obviously, we'll try and answer any of those questions. I just ask that you put them in the chat area. There is a field beneath the presentation that you should be able to enter those questions in. So go ahead and do that. And feel free to post those anytime throughout the session. I will be sharing this PowerPoint afterwards, so don't worry about taking notes on what you're seeing on any of the slides, but certainly if there's anything I can answer throughout the session, feel free to post it and we'll make sure we get an answer to you as quick as possible here. The agenda for the session, first off, I want to talk about why. Why did we convert to a new user interface? I want you to understand it, be comfortable with it, and talk about it a little bit. Then we're going to get into the navigation. How do you find maybe some of the tools and resources that you had previously? Where do you find those in the new user interface? And spend a little bit of time there. Plus, I want to give you, just a couple shortcuts that might make your life a little bit easier as you're learning to navigate within the new user interface. And I'll show you those within our demo environment as well. Definitely want to talk about reporting. As well as dashboards and self-service. The new user interface is just much more eye-appealing, much more easy to navigate, and consistent across all devices. So whether you're on a tablet, a laptop, a mobile phone, just a much improved experience. So we're going to want to spend some time looking at reports, looking at dashboards and self-service. And then we'll wrap up the session before the final kind of Q&A with how to actually turn on and enable the new UI. I will probably, as I've mentioned a couple times already, I will jump over to a demo environment, so I apologize if there's any slowdown in the presentation, but I'll jump over to the demo environment probably after I go through a couple slides here on navigation. Then I'll do it again as we get into dashboards and self-service, and then I'll do it one last time just to show you where you actually go within the system after I show you through a couple of slides. I'll actually show you where to do this stuff within the demo environment. So hopefully you feel much more comfortable taking care of that yourself. So let's jump in right away. Let's talk about the reason why we converted to a new user interface. I already mentioned it is much more user-friendly. Our goal is to allow your employees to spend less time in the system, more time with their employees if they're a manager, or more time obviously doing their job, whatever they're there to do for you, and less time within the system. So by hopefully making it a much more user-friendly experience, it requires less training, less explanation, kind of less hand-holding from your side from an administration standpoint. It's a consolidated, cleaner look, so you're going to see a lot more white space, much cleaner. We've gotten great feedback on that to really clean up the screen, make it a little bit less busy and easier to navigate and find the information that the people are looking for. And I mentioned we're going to spend some time in graphs and dashboards, but that data visualization through charts and graphs just really adds a completely new element to some of the great reporting you already have within Workforce Ready. Now you can see that within the charts and graphs and add that visual component that you maybe didn't have in the classic UI. Last piece is that it is responsive. It's consistent across all of your devices, whether it's a mobile, desktop, tablet, right? Under the classic experience, you would have had a different experience if you were on a different device. And so maybe you've had to create different training materials or those types of things to try and help your users navigate depending which device they're on. no longer need to do that because it's the exact same experience across all devices with a very responsive user interface. I said it, here it is again, right? Our end goal in mind when we created this was for you to spend less time in the system and more time with your employees. We truly believe that a good workforce management system is built around this, spending less time around a computer and more time managing your workforce and out with your workforce and engaging those employees. That was our ultimate goal of why we undertook this project to create a new user interface. Let's jump in. Let's jump into the system. Let's start talking about navigation. Mentioned in the beginning, I'm going to show you a couple slides here about the navigation so you can see the difference between the classic and the new UI. And then I'll jump right into the system and actually click around a little bit in there so you get a better feel for it within the demo environment. This is the classic screen. One of the first things you're going to see and be able to tell whether you're on the classic screen is that you have your menus across the top. So you see the highlighted red box, my account, my employees, manage time, all across the top, but a pretty busy screen with this much information all showing at the same time. In the new user interface, you don't see that menu going all the way across the top. Right away, you're going to start seeing these widgets, these boxes that you'll see on your dashboard, and we'll talk about a dashboard a little bit further here. But where do you think the menu item is in this new user interface? It's what we like to call our hamburger menu, the two pieces of bread and the meat in the middle, right? That becomes our little hamburger menu. I click on that. Now there's all my menu items that I'm used to seeing across the top. Much more clean that it's hidden to begin with. I click on my menu, this slides out. Now I can navigate to the different places that I'm used to navigating in my menu. Classic UI had what we called a horizontal distributed layout, right? So those menus across the top, and then there's the drop down, but then as I moused over something like my timesheet, then it just kept building out to the right. My current timesheet and so on and so forth, it just continued to build out to the right as you clicked on stuff. So I clicked on my account, then my timesheet, then I move over to the right, and there it builds out. The new UI, much more consolidated, and it collapses, if you want to think about it that way, in a much more vertical format. So if I'm looking at my information, we'll talk about it, I'm going to the single icon, then I go to my timesheet, expand that, and then I have those same menu items underneath, but now, once again, in a much more consolidated vertical layout. 1, 2, 3, as you can see here. Start menu displayed any favorites you had saved within the system, right? So as you're bookmarking or saving things in your favorites, I could click on my start menu and that might give me all my shortcuts to the frequently used items that I would have done in the past. Now that start menu, if I have my little star, looks much more like what you would see a bookmark in one of your internet browsers. I click on my favorites and now all my favorites are here, and same thing, I can categorize them to my information, to maybe my employees if I'm a manager, reports, whatever I use on a frequent basis, I can categorize those so that I can collapse it, keep that much cleaner look built under my favorites. It's easy to customize, and I'm going to also show you this in the demo environment, but right at the bottom of that star menu, when I go in there, my favorites menu, there's an option to configure favorites. I can then set and label it whatever I want. So if I want to label this my account, which you see here as one of my groups, underneath my account, I can have a variety of different links, and I can change the order, move those around, delete them. I can link to external sites if there's certain websites that I go to on a frequent basis. If I'm in the HR world and maybe I'm going out to E-Verify or I'm going out to one of my benefits sites, if we're a Blue Cross Blue Shield or someone like that, I can have a link directly here to my external site, or I can have it linked to my internal site into different parts of the menu so I don't have to go search and peck and find where those items are any longer. I can categorize those and make it really easy to configure my favorites. My account held the information in your classic environment, held your specific information, your paycheck, your timesheet, your benefits, things that are related to you as a specific employee. Those same things are now located under My Info, or that single person icon that you see here at the top of the menu. So same menu that you're accustomed to from the My Account just now becomes My Info, and everything collapses underneath that. My Employees, my time, or manage time and manage payroll. My employees, as if I'm a manager, right? And I have visibility to a group of employees. I can see that information under there from a classic. If I'm managing their timesheets, I might need to go there, or their payroll. If I'm related to the payroll process in any fashion, I might have these different menu items under there as a manager within the organization. Those now all fall under one manager icon in the new user interface. So where you see the multiple person icon, we call it the team icon, now has everything I would do related to my team. So if I want to look at my team, there it is. If I want to look at their time, maybe their schedules, their accruals, whatever the case might be, once again, that collapses nice and cleanly underneath that team icon that you see at the top of the menu. My reports then held a variety of specific reports, right? It had all of your reports buried under it, your custom ones that you would save under the My Saved reports, and then all the out-of-the-box ones, either related to HR, time and labor, payroll, whatever the case might be. Those all fell under your My Reports menu in the classic interface. In the new interface, under My Info, so that single person icon, I now have a My Reports menu, and that's going to show me where all my custom reports are located, right? That I saved, that I created here and saved here. If I go under my team, then if I'm under any of the given buckets, whether it's HR, time, payroll, whatever the case might be that I would do as a manager, those buckets, so in this case time, there is a reports menu underneath each of those menu items. So all my time reports are now based right under the time menu. So I don't have to go to a separate reports area. If I'm in here working on timesheets and looking at timesheets, that's also where I'm going to find the reports within each category. Last couple areas are company and company settings. Once again, used to be menu. That's where I could go and do a lot of my setup and configuration, put my company documents. That's where I would look for our service provider documents and release notes. Those also have moved in the new user interface. Company settings are now under the administration tab. So all your normal setups where you would go for security, HR setup, the Our Company items are all under this admin or gear icon that you're going to see here. Stuff like service provider documents, release notes are all going to be under the My individual icon and a My Learning area, and we'll show you that once we get into the demo area. I'm going to dive deeper in this area, the search feature, once we get into the demo, but want to highlight it here in the classic, right? I could type direct deposit. It starts to find me some of the menu items or reports or setup items that have those words in it. That was located in the upper right of the classic interface. It is now located right at the top of your menu. So when you open up that menu, you expand it, I can search and I get the exact same responsiveness where it finds me different items related to those words, whether it's reports, menu items, whatever the case might be, right here at the top of your menu. And I'm going to show you a couple shortcuts and tips with that as well. Breadcrumbs used to appear right at the top of your screen, but once again, took up a little bit of real estate, maybe made it look a little bit busier. Now, real clean, it just shows you the last one you're on. So in this case, my profile, but if I mouse over that, if I hover over it with my mouse, then it pops out my breadcrumbs. So I can still see where I'm located by just putting my mouse over that menu item. Up in the upper right in the classic, when I click on my name, then I have the ability to open a new window or even log out and change users. That new window is a good feature if you're used to working in a couple different screens, and especially our administrators, right? If you're one of those people, a lot of times you had a lot of windows open. That feature was a great feature in the classic view. You still now have that capability, but it's in the upper left of the menu item. It'll have your initials up there. Once again, I see my name. I still have the ability to open a new window, and I can sign out and sign in as a different user if I need to, or if I have a separate account for one reason or another. Couple different additional navigation items that you had in Classic View, right? The ability to go out to community and find help out there, to submit stuff via feedback. A lot of you did that during implementation process. You used the feedback system. That was up here in the corner. If you had to-do items, that would have showed up in your bell, help, any sort of messages. All of that was up here in the upper right next to your name in the Classic user interface. You're going to hear the same thing, still up in the upper right, still the same location and the same functions, all those same features. You can see it grayed out here in the background. There's the community, feedback, my to-do items, the help, all that's still there, and it's all in the upper right still of the screen. So it's easy to access, no change from that perspective. Before we jump into reporting, I told you I'm going to jump over and get into our demo environment. So let me do that. I've logged in as a manager here within our environment here, so you're going to see some things, but just know that I'm a manager within this system. So we're going to jump into the menu and show you some items there. Some of these we just talked about, right, with some of the screens and stuff, but I want you to be able to see it live within our demo environment. So because I'm a manager, I'm also an employee. I have my information as you saw in those slides. There's my info icon. I can get to my own personal information, my benefits, my paycheck, any of my custom reports, right? There's my saved reports. I might have some other saved reports under one of these categories or buckets here. I can see any reports that I've had scheduled. And we'll talk about that in a little bit when we get into true reporting and dashboards and those types of things. But that's all here under my menu as well. As a manager, I have access to my team, which you saw in the previous one. So there I can get access to time. I can go to timesheets. I can see any pending approval. I can see all timesheets. I can manage my timesheets. And it jumps me right into that menu item that I can then look at all the timesheets for my employees. I can view them. I can submit them for approval, those types of things. I click back. It immediately takes me back to the last screen I was on. There's my menu as you saw it, collapsed out. Great user interface in terms of being clean. If I want to leave this out here, I can pin it. So if I click on this, if I click back to my home screen here by just clicking on my logo, and this can be your company logo, right? It collapsed that menu. It hid it behind the hamburger menu. But if I click it open, click on pin, now this menu is sitting here. Even if I'm navigating over here, that menu item doesn't go away for me. It keeps it visible. A couple other things you saw on the slides. I just want to highlight them here just so you can see them within the actual demo environment. The admin, the company settings, same as you saw before or you're used to in Classic. Once I'm in company settings, if I go into profiles and policies, that's where I would go to security. That's where I would find all my security profiles and those types of things if I'm trying to set any permissions or anything like that. And we're going to jump into that at the very end so you can see where to enable the new user interface as well. HR setup, any of the other items, this is also now where the mass edit is. If you're comfortable with that and being able to do mass edits of some of your employees' information, you can now find that under the company settings menu. And then I can see all the different things. I can mass edit profiles, I can mass edit rates, whatever the case might be, that's now found under the mass edit area, as well as imports. If you do imports into the system for any reason, always remember, and if you didn't know this, if you're not sure, hey, is the employee one under employee setup? Is it HR? Where is it? I can also click on overview, and that lists all my imports out for me and groups them. So I can see the company setup ones are here. Here's the template for it in Excel to be able to get to it. Here's the employee ones. Here's the HR ones, so on and so forth. We talked about breadcrumbs throughout. There you go. If I just mouse over where I'm at, now it tells me I found that under company settings, imports, overview. Now I can remember where that is to actually be able to get back there. Click the back, takes me back to the main menu or to the home screen where I was before. Let's jump over to favorites and take a look here. Favorites, these are things, right, that maybe I go into a frequent basis. Time management, so I created a time management and a timesheet approval area, because that's something I just do on a week in and week out basis. Or maybe I have a bucket called my activities and I do stuff with my profile. Either way, as I mentioned, real simple to do. I click the configure favorites at the bottom. I can call it employees configuration. I can call it, Brad's list, whatever I want to call that. I can create as many buckets as I want right here. So right now you can see I have absence management, time management, scheduling. I can expand those, and I can add, right now it just has view my employees, but if I want to send an external link and I want to say go search Google for some reason, I can simply put Google out here, add that link, and away we go. Now I have a Google link added to my menu. I of course want to save it. I now come back out to my favorites. And I think that was under absence management, and there it is. There's my Google link that would jump me back out to a Google, the Google website, obviously, in that case. I can create whatever favorites they are, but you see just how easy that is. Let me give you a couple other things, and we'll talk about these further from this main screen. If I click Home, that's going to take me to I'm going to call it dashboard, my home screen. This first home screen might be what I'm used to doing on a regular basis. So here's my clock, and I can get to my timesheet, any company announcements, maybe a chart for the week. If I have if I'm in recruiting and I want to look at requisitions, I can see the chart of there. If I'm looking at my team, maybe I want to see perspectives, so I can see their engagement score right now, their reliability, things like that. Whatever is important to me, I can have on this home screen of different things that maybe I would do, and then different dashboard items that we're going to get into when we get into the dashboard section. You can set up as different kind of tabs across the top here. One's related to HR, time, your team, whatever that is. Again, whatever you deem appropriate, you can set that up here by clicking on that kind of home menu and edit and add those different tabs up there to give you those different dashboards. If I click on the dashboard menu, this is going to probably look a little bit more like your classic user interface, right? So it's going to bring you back to that normal look of here's my to-do items, maybe items that I have on my start menu. And one of the things you're going to notice, that start menu, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit, that start menu in the classic interface is what becomes your favorites in the favorites menu. So that Google that I just added, there it is under my start menu in this classic look when I clicked on dashboard at the bottom of my menu. I promised you a couple shortcuts, and I don't want to leave you without them before we jump back over and get back into the presentation a little bit. A couple shortcuts that I like to show people, that especially our administrators that are in the system on a regular basis, and they're looking for ways to do things a little bit quicker, and then maybe even navigating and finding things on under my team and so on and so forth. If you use the pound symbol, or the hashtag symbol, depending what you're more comfortable with, and I start to type the name of somebody, that might be on my team, or, that might be in the system for me to be able to look at, I can do that. So as I was saying, if I at the top of the screen type a % symbol, and the person's name, first or last name, it'll bring me up that employee. So in this case, Cindy Scott, I type % symbol. It actually will take me directly to Cindy's profile within our system. Pretty cool. Don't have to search around. Don't have to look over the menus. I am directly into Cindy's profile tab right from there. Another shortcut similar to that, and I was trying to show you before, and it just wasn't coming up, but and that just might be in my demo environment, but if I do the pound symbol, Scott, pound symbol or hashtag symbol will actually jump me directly into Cindy's timesheet. Her timesheet directly will go right from by using that pound symbol. So a couple little shortcuts that might help you find your way, and some neat little tricks to be able to get into the system a little bit quicker. This works because it's a responsive user interface. If you do this on your mobile, if you do this on a tablet or anything like that, it'll jump you right into there. So pretty helpful, great shortcut. I always loved it to be able to get me to places a little bit quicker and to be able to navigate. Last thing as we jump back, once again, there's where I can find my new window. That's where I can sign out. So if I need to open up a new window, boom, I click that, it pops me in. Away we go. I have my new window open, easy enough within the system. So some great things, like I said, some good usability. We're going to spend a little bit more time on it. Let's jump back. Let's talk a little bit about the reporting side of things within the system, and then we'll jump back in the demo environment and show you within the system. So overall, same general reporting options are available. There hasn't been significant changes from an availability standpoint. What you could do in Classic, you can do now in the new user interface. The big bonus or the big wow factor, especially that our executives love and our administrators love to be able to give our executives, is that visual element that you can do with using charts and graphs within the system. So to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, in the Classic, this is what the reports look like, right? A nice Excel kind of graphical, or chart, grid-looking format within the system. So it looked a lot like an Excel spreadsheet. Not a lot of visual appeal, but it got me the data that I was looking for within the system. Now, if I look at that, I still have those same capabilities within the new UI. A little bit cleaner, a little bit less cluttered, not as much stuff, I guess, up along the top here that you would have seen in the Classic user interface, but I still can get all the data that I had accessible before. Couple tricks and a couple things that you're just used to, right? We know reports is a great feature within Workforce Ready. The fact that it's built in, I don't need a separate reporting tool. It's nice and easy to use. I want to show you where to be able to find those same items that you're comfortable using. Upper left, you could always classify and say how many rows you want to show on a page. Maybe it defaults at 10 and you want to show 200 or 100, whatever the case might be. Shows you how many pages, page 1 of page 4. I now still have those same capabilities, just page is hidden under this little page icon at the top of the menu. So I click on the word page, I can show how many rows that I want to be able to show and still that ability to navigate from one page to 2 to 3 to 4 in the same case that you could before. Top of the screen, I could go to my different views, right? So it's located in the upper right. If I saved a view of this report or this screen, maybe I had my default view, but then I had one called Cost Center 1 or Hourly. I could click on that in the upper right. Still have those same capabilities now. So just after the page, it's up in the upper left instead of the upper right, but those same saved views, I click on that same drop down, boom, they're right there. Same exact capabilities you're used to and comfortable with. Columns, great feature, right? You can add, you can remove columns. You can change that report up and really make it your own by adding and removing that different information to it. Right now, it's moved to under these 3 little ellipses, the 3 little dots in the upper right. So I can still do those great things. It drops down a menu, and then you see that same add, remove columns in here. To be able to add and remove, obviously, the columns from your individual report. You now also have some other great features. This is where I can save those views, right? So after I add and remove those columns, I can change and save some of those different views that I want. This is where I can export information, right? If I want to export it out to Excel or a PDF file or anything like that, I can print it. I can schedule it to be automatically delivered at a specific point in time. But all those features are now collapsed under this little ellipse that you see in the upper right-hand corner. Filters, right? So very busy top of the screen, very busy top of the report. I would have my column header. I would have my grouping ability and the ability to do filters right at the top of the report. Still have those same ability to do filters. Now it's just collapsed down underneath that little drop down. And then I can show my little filters or clear my filters. I can sort, I can group. All those things I used to be able to do in the header are now collapsed nicely, cleanly underneath this little drop down at the top of each header that you see at the top of each column there. In addition to that, and a little tip and trick here, when you're getting in and starting to look at some of those column filters, you can still do that here. So if I take a look, I could sort. There they are, right? There's my sorting, ascending or descending. I can still group. It was that little G up at the top. Now my group is all under that same menu that you saw in the drop down. I can remove before I click the X. Now here's my remove option in that same little drop down that you saw before. Continue to filter. So equals, less than, greater than, whatever the case might be, and the value. Can certainly do that and hit apply. I can also set values to filter by and do it by multiple columns at a single time by clicking this little pill icon that says columns up here in the right. So it says I got one filter listed here in the upper right corner. If I happen to click on it, now it gives me all my columns and I can actually set a filter with all of them at the same time. Versus I used to have to bounce from column to column to column to set it. I can now do that same capability by just clicking on this pill icon. Now I can set all my filters at once, click apply, and boom, my report has all the different filters in one fell swoop. Let's talk about charts and graphs, right? That capability didn't exist in the old user interface. It now does in this new user interface. Very obviously, as you can tell probably by my voice and how fast I'm talking, very excited about it. I was ecstatic when I saw this come out. I know it's something I heavily wanted to use when I was on the customer side of things, and a lot of times I was caught exporting stuff out into Excel, then making the charts and graphs that I wanted to see come out of it. Real simple. Any report, so any report you already have saved out there, any report you're already currently working on that can do a chart and a graph, or any screen that you go to. This just happens to be the employee information screen. If it's able to have a chart and a graph, there will be the button in the upper right corner right there. Looks like a little piece of paper with a chart on it. That's all I need to do. Click on that, and then I have three options available to me. Data only, which is what you're used to seeing in the classic format. Charts only, which is a graph, or I can do both charts and data on the same screen. This is an example of that charts and data. So there's my grid format that you see up at the top that I'm used to, but now I have the ability to add some of these charts and graphs at the bottom of the screen, make it much more eye appealing. Starts to look much more like the dashboards and stuff that you're probably hearing you want from some of your executives, to actually be able to look and view at some of this information, start to look at trend lines and those types of things. In the upper right of the charts and graphs area, you'll also see three ellipses. That's where I can then add additional charts if I want to be able to do that. So I can select a specific chart, I can print a specific chart, or I can click add, boom, click add. Now from that add chart, I can start to decide what I want, what type of chart, different bar graph, maybe a line chart, a pie chart, whatever the case might be. And then if you're comfortable with Excel, you're probably pretty similar to looking at this. Then you can start to look at what's your x-axis, your y-axis. How do you want it? Do you want it to be a count, a sum, an average? Whatever the case is, you can begin to set those, set the title. Do you want labels? You can really make these charts and graphs customized to how you want them to look. Gives you a lot of capabilities within this little menu item that appears, like I said, when you click those three items up at the top of the menu. So I clicked on a pie chart just to show you some differences here and actually be able to look at some of those same features. If I'm looking at different information, right? That first one was a bar graph. Now you're going to see information. Maybe I don't have an X and Y axis, but I definitely have still the categories that I want to put in the pie chart, the metric, the value calculation, and then same labels and titles that I was used to on the other screen. Couple more slides and then we'll jump over to the demo environment. Let's talk about the dashboard because I think that ties to charts and graphs as well, right? A lot of those charts and graphs that you end up creating, you want to actually be able to throw up onto a dashboard. So let's talk about that. I showed you in the demo environment. You can click on the dashboard at the bottom. It gives you a much more classic experience feel. The home button gives you more that new user interface feel. So you see that home tab, which has that quick information widgets, those things that you maybe use on a regular basis or just need access to on a much quicker basis, gets you to home tab. Then you can create all those different module-specific dashboards and begin to pull in those charts that are relative to either your team, their time, HR, whatever the case might be. It allows you to categorize and really use those powerful charts and graphs and put them into this dashboard format. Self-service, same thing, real clean look, right? You're going to see the different, what you had before is all your menu items, your breadcrumbs across the top, maybe some of the tabs across the top. Very horizontal looking, takes up a lot of real estate, real busy in that classic format compared to, you're going to see a much cleaner look here in the new user interface. Now my menu items go down the left so that I can click on the different steps that I might need to accomplish. Keeps a very clean screen, helps me navigate, makes it much, much easier on the users. Ultimately, once again, going to trying to get them to spend less time in the system and more time out on the floor. Intuitive, self-service, so you can see the experience in the mobile. I can't show you this when we jump into the demo, so I just want to show you a couple slides here, but much, much more user-friendly, right? Today's day and age, everybody's using their mobile devices. I want to look at my schedule. I want to request a day off. I can now click on my calendar. I can start that request right from my mobile device. I can, really see that stuff in the desktop format. So if I'm the employee, I submit that request. The administrator gets a much cleaner, or even a manager gets a much cleaner calendar view where I can approve and reject right on the day. I can see if anybody else has that day already taken off. You get the point. Much, much more user-friendly, much easier to see for folks. So let's flip back over to the demo environment like I promised you, so I can show you some of these dashboards that we talked about. I'm going to jump over. I'm going to go to my dashboard as you saw me do before, or excuse me, my home menu as you saw me do before. That's going to bring us to that new user interface. These are my quick widgets that we talked about. But I really want to show you some of these great dashboards, charts, those things that are available, right? So I click on team. Now here's a chart of my team, and I can see their hours worked maybe by this week or over a 2-week time period or a pay period. I can see which one of my employees, gosh, Ward here has got almost twice as much hours as everybody else. Got to be worried, right? He's putting in a lot of hours. Great from an employee standpoint. Maybe bad from an engagement. He's going to burn out, those types of things. So just got to keep an eye on it. Might want to look at attendance. Speaking of that, maybe I want to jump over to my time and still look at that time from a last name standpoint from a different approach, or even by department, right? If I'm an administrator, I want to look at which departments are running high and which ones might be adding more cost or anything like that to us. As you can see on any dashboard, I can click that ellipse and I can save this view. I can manage the view. I can rearrange these tiles if I want it laid out differently. If I want to add a new chart, there you go. As simple as that. I click the add chart in the upper right. Now it asks me which report I want to be able to add from. Because I'm already on the time tab, it's giving me time reports, right? It's not giving me HR reports or benefit reports. It's trying to help me here, make this once again a little bit easier. I can maybe grab my detailed calc time and I can click if that's a report that has the ability to add it. Then I can do it and I can say, okay, I want to pull the system setting. This one doesn't happen to have a chart maybe to display. So obviously I can pick, a different one that might work from a time setting standpoint. But I can just this easy. I can do average worked by last name. I want it in a pie chart format. I click add because that's a chart I already created. And boom, just like that. Now I've added a new chart to my dashboard. You can see just how easy that is. I can look at HR that same way. Right? I might want to be looking at my diversity within my population. If I'm a recruiter, maybe I'm looking at open recs. Maybe I'm looking by title or budget or by location. I mean, you can just see the power of these dashboards and just how easy it is to customize and add some of this stuff. Really make your life easy, especially if you're looking at any sort of trend items, those types of things. But really becomes powerful if I'm payroll, maybe I'm adding a chart on my payroll processing, any of that stuff. One of my absolute favorites now is as talent is becoming important and we're starting to look at organizations and teams of people, maybe I can look at somebody's engagement score, their performance, their reliability, their risk. So as I'm truly driving employee engagement initiatives within our organization, I now have that ability to be able to look at the talent and see who maybe my top performers are. Really starts to change our human capital discussions, that you can now bring in dashboards that are visual appealing. They pop right to you as an executive. That data pops right out. you begin to now have true human capital discussions and less discussions about the way the data is formatted, or can you pull a Excel file with this or that and try and piecemeal all this together. This now all comes together for you in some pretty user-friendly, easy to view, easy on the eye, clean looking dashboards that, like I said, you can add with just a click of a button. Becomes super, super easy to add any of these different reports. Once again, just want to go back as a quick refresher. Reports now are under those given areas, right? So if I want to add HR reports and I want to look at them, maybe I want to look at turnover and turnover rates, those are now under, if I'm looking at a team level or organization level, if you're an administrator, that's an HR report. So then I go under HR, there's my reports menu, I see turnover, and then I have all my different options available. So I can take a look at turnover, whatever different things I want to do. Now from here, I can customize that. I can create that chart that I want to be able to create. Boom, here's my turnover chart. Great trend lines to see. Oh my God, we have a problem. Month over month, our turnover is spiking. That's something I want to put on a dashboard for my executives to see. We can do that. We're off and running. Now maybe I want to change that. There's that pill icon. Globally, this is what it's set at, but I can do column by column. As I showed you in the dashboard, I can search by month, whatever those columns are in that report or percentage or whatever the case might be. I can add filters in here. I can clear them. All of that stuff becomes pretty easy under this pill icon. I can see I have 2 filters applied. Okay, date range, okay, is one of them, from and to. That's the 2 different date ranges. I could search by company EIN if I have multiple. All those things are here. Any saved views, if I had them, would be under here, right? You saw that. Here's that page icon. So I got 100 rows that I could show. I could show more or less, and I could still scroll between my pages. So all the things that you saw on those PowerPoint slides, really, really easy to access, get to. I'm a huge fan of the managing kind of emails and scheduling those reports, right? Why go into the system if I don't have to? If I want to schedule that report to run on a regular basis, this is where I'm going to go to do that. And then every, let's say, day, week, month, whatever it is, quarterly, I want this turnover report to run. I can schedule that report to run, be visible, maybe even get emailed out to a group of people, my executives of that. That's probably going to become less and less as you get more and more into these dashboards, because less things will have to be exported out and sent to people when we can drive them back to a great dashboard like you saw us taking a look at back here in the demo environment. So there, now I can look at that perspectives without even having to run a report. Some of that information about my team is serviced right up to me right here on any one of these tabs. So all super customizable. Hope you had a chance to see that within the system pretty quick and easy. So I know I'm running long here. I'm going to jump back over to the slides real quick and just show you, if you haven't had the chance to be able to turn on the new UI, you're excited about it now, you want to know where to be able to do it. Let's quickly wrap up the session with how to turn on and enable the new UI. So it's all within your security profiles. So this does not have to be a big bang approach. For some people, that has worked really, really well. I'll be honest with you. To do it in certain groups, that means you have multiple training documentations going. You're trying to manage one group. You're trying to answer questions where one group is in the old user interface or the classic interface and one group is in the new. Some people go big bang. Other people want to turn it on group by group, maybe by location, by division, whatever the case might be. All of it's done by security profile, and you can control how you want to turn it on, and that's the next time they're going to be able to do it. So you open up the various different security profiles that you're going to want to show, or convert to the new UI. You have a couple options available. You can enable it at the desktop level. You can turn on a toggle, which allows the user, when they're in the screen, to be able to flip back and forth between the classic and the new UI, and then you can also enable that mobile experience. What I would encourage people is, if a lot of cases, if they're already using the mobile, they're probably using that new user interface already. The mobile experience looks like that within the app. And so they're going to be a lot more comfortable going to the new user interface. So that's a group, right? Maybe people start with doing it on the mobile experience first, and then you flip people on their desktop. I always encourage people start with your new hires, start with applicants. They don't know any different. So a great place to start is to get them used to the new user interface right away, and then slowly, or big bang, like I said, depends on your culture and how quick they are to adapt change. Real quick, if you don't remember, if you're in the classic user interface, company settings, you go to profiles and policies, security, that jumps you in there. You pick the security profile that you're going to want to do. If you want to test it with somebody first, right? And you don't want them to constantly be in the new user interface. You want to give them a little bit of time in it and then flip them back. What I always suggest, especially company administrators, you don't want them learning when they're going through payroll or going through benefits open enrollment. Clone their existing user interface, maybe call it company administrator, I said user interface, clone their security profile called company administrator, maybe clone it and call it company administrator new UI. Then all you have to do is on their profile, flip them back and forth to the company administrator new UI. That way, if they're just not feeling comfortable quite yet, you can flip them back to the classic, get them through maybe payroll week or open enrollment, then flip them back to the new UI to finish doing testing, maybe update documentations. Once I clone that security profile, I can click Edit. I jump in there, scroll down all the way on the bottom on the left. That's where I can find my checkbox to enable the new user interface. And like I said, I'm going to show you in the demo environment. If I click this display new toggle in the upper right there by my bell, right, my to-do items, you're going to see this thing, this yellow ribbon that shows up that says go to the new user interface or go back to classic. And they can toggle back and forth without you even having to change their security profile. Once you enable it in that security profile, that toggle, I should say. Then once you have that profile created, right, so we called it company administrator new UI, or in this case manager new UI, all I have to do is in their profile, the employee's profile that I want to change, I change their security from manager to manager new UI. The next time that, of course, save it. The next time that person logs into the system, they're going to be on the new user interface. It takes effect almost immediately. Before I give you some resources, I'm going to quickly jump you over to the demo. I'm just going to show you real quick company settings, right? We go to our gear. I'm in there. Policies and profiles and policies. I scroll down. I find my security menu. Here's my, let's say, employee. That shows me who's already associated with this profile. Here's my little clone button. I click on clone. It says, do you want to continue? I say yes. There's my copy of my employee. I click edit. It's going to bring me into that specific security profile. I'm going to call this employee new UI. So I know this is my new security profile. Once again, I scroll down all the way on the left. There's my toggle button to enable the desktop. There's my toggle button to enable the new look toggle switch, which you're going to see, and enable the mobile for anybody that's in this profile, this security profile of a new UI employee. Click Save. Now I can go assign that employee new UI to any employee. Right now it shows me there's nobody assigned to it. I can see right here there's 0. There's 121 people assigned to my existing employee. I can assign any one of those employees to this. They're going to get the exact same permission, security, but now they're going to get the new user experience once they log into the system. Okay, so really, really simple, really easy to do. Encourage you to be able to do that, and be able to clone and jump in and start taking advantage of the system. You saw a link when you were in there. I'm going to show it to you in here just so once again you don't have to see it, and then I'm going to jump back to my slide. When I'm in the security profile and I enabled the desktop on the left, this is going to take you to a link right out on Community. That's our release readiness page, right? So if I click that, it's going to jump me out to my Community page. There's my release readiness. I can see all the release information. If I jump you back over to our presentation here, you're going to see, oops, excuse me. You're going to see right within here, that's exactly what I was going to tell you. Your new experience, bookmark this page. Got a lot of great resources out here. There's some change management information, some training sessions, things that are going to help you, some best practices. to help you in rolling this out within your organization. Training materials, so some materials that you can use, maybe you can take and brand as you look to roll this out within your organization, and then how to actually retire, take advantage, configure some of the items to really be able to optimize the new user experience. Thanks for sticking with me. I know we covered a lot of information. I'm going to wrap up here with just answering some of the questions that I've seen below. If you have additional questions, please go ahead and throw it in there. And then I'm going to jump in and start answering these. But don't be afraid. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback on this new user interface, especially as more and more people go over to the mobile environment. So I just really encourage you to be aggressive. Roll this out with your organization. Roll it out to certain groups first, if that's the way your company adopts change. But roll it out. It's a great experience, something I think you're going to be really happy with, and your employees are going to be happy with, and really allow you to make the most out of your system. We'll jump in. We'll use the last few minutes here to answer a few questions and be able to go from there. But good luck. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this session and found it useful so you can start enjoying the new user experience. Thanks again.